This is why we push cash. This is why we push precious metals. This is why we talk about a decentralized bartering system. This is why we talk about stockpiling food. Starting just this week, we see a huge move to the digitized currency, the centralized digital currency that the Fed is pushing. The trial runs start this week, and now we should be really paying attention of what is actually starting with the control of our money. We're going to be discussing some of the things at the G20. We're going to be talking about the digitized currency. But ultimately, it is all about controlling your money, and that is not good. So warning, this could be the beginning of some detrimental policies that are coming our way. And now let's talk about what we should be doing. Let's jump right into it. Today's video starts right now. What are we doing? The control of money and what we spend our money on is really right in front of us. We've heard that, and we've seen the administration push away from that. But just this week in New York, they're running a trial basis of CBDC, centralized currency, that not only the government, but the big banks and the Fed is pushing. Now, the scary thing is when the big banks and the Fed is pushing it, where does your local bank stand? Where does your credit union stand? The sad thing is, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see some of those little banks and smaller banks either get alienated out, closed down, or have to join the system. So, is your money safe? Let's talk about the trial and what they're doing and how they're trying to emulate China and their currency. And we're going to talk about what China is doing with their currency and how they know everything their people are purchasing. Let's jump right into it. Now, this is what's going on in China right now. What they push is dealing with your credit score, dealing with ESG, and understanding exactly what their people are purchasing. Now, here's the scary thing. People say, well, they're not going to control us. They know exactly what our banks are doing now. We do see that MasterCard, Citi, Wells Fargo, they're the ones that's helping push this out in these trial bases. So now not only are they knowing what we're doing, they're going to have all access to everything we're purchasing. Now, why do we say that's a bad thing? Because some people will kick back and they'll say, hey, we're not buying anything wrong. All we're doing is grocery shopping. We don't have a lot of money. We're not buying anything illegal. What's it matter? Here's why it matters. So what they do in China with their digitized currency, say for instance, they say you can purchase this, and they see that you're purchasing these goods and you're being a good citizen. No problem. But for the ones who are religiously not believing like they are, the ones who are buying things that are not part of the ESG movement, some of the ones who politically does not line up with the party in charge, those are looked at as bad citizens, and their social credit scores are low. So they can manipulate how you spend your money, or if you can spend it at all. There was a study that showed that if some of the good citizens wanted to spend some of their digitized currency, they could rent bikes, they could rent taxis, they could utilize it for a lot of things because they have a good credit score based on what they're buying, the party they support, and some of the things that they do that makes them a good citizen. Some of the ones who are what we consider Christian and have a different religion, ones who may be snapping back towards the politics of China, they're the ones who can't rent a taxi. They're the ones who are a little bit more manipulated with what they can buy because of the ESG scores that they're getting. So can you borrow money? Can you purchase food? Do you support the party in charge? No matter if you believe that there's a RD behind someone's name, what we are seeing with government is we're seeing a more bureaucratic way of looking at regulation and making sure you are following the plan. So if we are setting ourselves up to kind of emulate what China's got, they're pretty harsh on their people. Are we really looking for that? Is that a freedom thing? Is that liberty? Do we really have the choice and the freedom to buy whatever we want to buy? Maybe you wanted to buy a little ammo. Maybe you wanted to stockpile food. Maybe you just want to buy some gas. Well, energy is we're a little low today, so you can't stockpile some of those things. Well, the groceries are a little low, and we see that your social credit score, you've been talking a little bit on social media. I don't know if you need to be buying this because your social credit score is a little low. That is reality. That is what we're going to be seeing if this passes and this goes. It's what they call a trial run. Do you honestly believe they're going to let it fail? They're going to make this work. And the sad thing is, the Federal Reserve is already over the money, the printing, the issues that we have with inflation. A lot of this is going back to the Federal Reserve's not doing their job that they shouldn't even had in the first place. But they're not doing their job to take care of making sure monetary policy stays strong. Since the early 1900s, we've been going down a terrible path of getting away from the gold standard, not holding government responsibility for the debts that they were incurring and the spending they were doing. So a lot of these issues are caused by the Federal Reserve. Why do we believe now that they're already in control of big government? They're already in control of big business. They're made up of the banks that we just talked about. And now they are going to be over your individual money, and knowing how you spent your money, that could come back and haunt us. Ask yourself, would your rating be good? You know, if you disagree with this administration, would your social credit score be bad? If you're buying a lot of diesel because you have a diesel guzzler, you know, like my F600, it has gas and it goes about 6 miles to a gallon. Now, I don't like to use my dump truck too much, but say I have that on the road and we realize that sucker is pulling some gas. Would that make me a bad citizen? You know, say for instance, I fill up and I have to do a travel and I have to go out of town and it's just me in the car, and then all of a sudden I have to come back and fill up again because I had to do business out of town. Would that make me a bad citizen because I did a double fill up for that day? How's vacation going to look when you spend so much extra money on gas? Are you a bad citizen? Can you borrow the money to start a home if all of a sudden you say something wrong on social media? Those are very honest questions that you need to be asking your senators and representatives to say, what are we doing? We heard a lot this year about ESG and how it really had a lot of blowback, but guess what? It hasn't stopped anything. Let's jump into the G20 and what's been discussed there and how we're seeing a double down policy on a lot of these things. And I don't think they really care what we think. So let's jump right into some of the other situations that we need to be paying attention with your money, because they're doubling down on the policies to take control of it. So the big G20 and the COP27, or whatever they call it, is made up of government and big business, almost like a private-public partnerships that we see and that we talk about so much. The initiative, well, Klaus Schwab did speak there, Bill Gates spoke there at a government conference, and they really pushed towards the Agenda 2030. Sweden we see, India we see, America we see, of course China, are all pushing for digital currencies. They also spoke the fact that we're going to have to keep raising interest rates. The central banks, the Federal Reserves, they will have to keep raising interest rates because, man, we can't control our inflation. Sadly, they're the ones that cause a lot of the inflation because they're the ones borrowing the money. They're the ones spending like we have it to always print. And now we put ourselves in a problem, and then we allow them to be the solution to the problem. Does that even make sense? Not only that, you know, your energy cost has went up pretty good this year, and especially some of you countries that are not America is even worse. Guess what? We're promising, along with Japan, like $20 billion of public and private funds to Indonesia to help them close down their coal plants. Does the Indonesian people want that? Do you want your tax dollars to go help Indonesia get away from coal to make their energy costs more? We're backing the UN Assembly that's pushing the Agenda 2030. That was overwhelmingly accepted at this meeting. Now the kicker is, do you actually have a say in what goes on there? Why do we not? And all of a sudden, you know, Mr. Schwab does, and Mr. Gates do. They're private citizens like we are. They're not part of the government, but are they? And what's so funny, those climate goals for Indonesia, we're hoping by 2030 they're done. Isn't that coincidental that it's 2030? Isn't that funny? Whew, man. So now you see the push, and they're going to call this the Regulated Liability Network. That is actually the trial run for the digital currency. So when you start seeing that name, why do we rename something? Why do we always do that? Because we're trying to hide something. It's kind of like the Inflation Reduction Act. That's not really helping inflation. We already know that. That's already come out and said that that bill did not do that. All it was the Green New Deal renamed. So we believe if we rename something, somehow it just changes really what's in the bill. It really changes, hey, centralized digital currency sounds good, but hey, let's call it something totally different so people don't know actually what we're doing. Sleight of hand. A lot of that's going on now. So we're not going to dive into the FTX stuff because everybody has touched it. But the scary thing I think that we don't see is how connected it is with our government. It's not just the fact that this is just some sleazy people who took your money and they ran off with it, kind of like a Madoff situation or an Enron situation. I'm thinking there's a lot more to this because all of a sudden this place opens up, FTX grows to billions and billions and billions, and it's supported by a party that's in power. And not only that, it opened up around the same time. All of a sudden midterms go by, your money has went to support all these things that you didn't want them to. You were just hoping to put your money up in FTX and in these exchanges and in crypto, which is so speculative, which is so, this whole platform has been so inherently wrong. But ultimately, all you did was just fatten the pockets of a certain party in America. That could be sketchy. We go back to those public-private partnership conversations. I think we're seeing a lot more of that now. So now what do we do? What do we do when we see this happening and we're just these lowly Americans that really don't know what's going on, and we're just letting these politicians walk right over us? What are you going to do? So this is literally what I did just this week. I went by and I bought precious metals. I made sure I purchased them with cash from a person and got quality old, what we call junk coins, older coins. Not only that, I bought some other precious metals in the form of little brass things. And we're not going to talk about what they are, but I bought a good bit of them. So that's what I'm doing. I also got an Azure Standard order in with our grocer. If y'all don't know Azure Standard, there's a link below. But ultimately what it is, it's just an online grocer that does holistic bulk buying for groceries, and they deliver to certain parts of towns. Well, guess what? I stockpiled a whole lot more flour, sugar, and things that we don't grow here on farm, because I know those are good bartering agents. I stockpiled more salt. Not only that, I have a lot of seeds, and we're starting to grow a whole nother set of gardens because we see the issues in front of us. If they're going to control our dollar, then we've got to find ways to be proactive to control our own money and our own decentralized currency. Now, I'm not against crypto. I don't like crypto as much as I like Bitcoin. I do think there's a difference there, and I'm not advising you either way. But remember, if you're invested in crypto, if you're invested in Bitcoin, make sure you're in trustworthy places, because we see that a lot of people just get ripped off in the billions and lost a lot of money. But the sad thing is this: if power shuts down, if we're not in control of our own internet, our own servers, is Bitcoin and crypto good? I'm not saying don't put money there, but it's still dependent on energy. It's still dependent on the internet. It's still dependent on these electronics working. Sometimes those things may not work. So I'm not saying don't put money in crypto. I'm not saying don't put money in Bitcoin. I am saying, though, get some things that are tangible. I push tangibility because if we don't have tangible goods in our hands to barter and to have and to utilize, then it is not worth anything without someone else giving us access to it. So if we don't have access to decentralized currency, or we don't have access to our centralized currency because we're, a bad social credit person, then you have to have other ways to take care of your family. It's where it gets a little sketchy. There was a few countries that come out and said, because of energy prices being so high, we're going to build grants. Actually, Canada was one of them. There is going to be a grant to help people pay for their energy. We'll probably see this in some of our cities in America. We're going to see this across some of Europe too. You're going to see the government come in and say, it's so high to take care of your family this year with energy. We're going to offer grants. What is that doing? We are now getting programmed that the government will always take care of us when those prices are too high. So it looks like they're the superhero, but actually what they're doing is they're manipulating the issues to therefore to come in and be the savior, quote unquote savior, or the Superman or the superhero that's going to take care of us. So then we're just going to fall at their feet and say, oh man, thank you government. And all the while, if that social credit score's not up, you may not get that heat credit. Whoa, it's getting real now. So it's just making that revolving circle that the government causes the issues, the government causes the issues with the money, the government causes the issues with the energy, and somehow the government now is going to give you the saving grace to take care of all that for you. Man, that's a good scheme. So you can tell I'm a little chapped. I don't understand why we've let it get this bad. And so when I hear conservatives or all these Republicans get up and say they're going to hold the feet to the fire, or you hear from both sides saying the same thing, we're going to stand up for the people. They're not standing up for you. They're not. We're losing our freedom and our liberty hand over fist, and we're not doing a dang thing about it. So I'm a little perturbed. So guys, I'm telling you, focus on what is going on. We're seeing the beginning. We're seeing crypto having collapses. So be careful. We're seeing digitized currency that's now centralized, because guess what? They see decentralized currency. Oh, it's just so bad. Look at all the money that's been lost. Look at all the money that's been laundered. You've lost these billions from these decentralized currencies. So now you need a digitized currency so we can take care of it and make sure your money is safe. All the while, they know what you're spending it on, and they're surveilling you a little bit more each and every day with that. I go back to bartering. I go back to having stockpiled goods and making sure you're taking care of your family. I'm telling you, we're living in some tough times now. And please don't put your head in the sand. Please pay attention to what's going on around you and be proactive. Really push your senators and your representatives, your local governments, to stand up and have a backbone. If they don't stand up, we have no shot at this. And I'm scared of what's really to come. What I challenge you to do, before this digitized currency that is going to be surveilling you on everything you buy, before that happens, you start being wise and you start using some of your funds to buy things that matter. Because when they're over it, you might not have that option, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I want to know your thoughts. This video may be, it may not be viewed by too many, because ultimately it seems like when we talk about these issues, sometimes those videos get a little less exposure. So please share this video, like these, and it helps us get back in the algorithm so people can see the importance of what our government and this public-private partnership stuff's doing, and how we need to take control of what's going on. Because if we don't take control of our own money and we don't stand up and be proactive in what's going on, they're taking control and they're going to be over it all. And then you are going to be at their beck and call and looking for them to take care of you. We see when government steps in and takes care of those and adds those grants and all that good stuff, that seems like that's more of a universal basic income, which tends to be a little socialist. Isn't it funny how those coincidences happen every day? Guys, pay attention to what's going on around you. When those naysayers say you're crazy for prepping, you're crazy for homesteading, you're crazy for stockpiling, you just keep on keeping on and you keep doing what you're doing, and ultimately take care of your family. Rely on God, because we need a revival in this country terribly. We need a revival in this world, because I believe we're going to see a lot more volatility and we're going to see a lot of bad times before we see good times again. So stay prepared, be prepared, serve God, of course, and look for hopefully a great revival or a great awakening to happen with the people of this world, because we're in need of it, guys. Give me your thoughts below. Tell me what you think about this video. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.